The night was calm. Cities slept under a soft sky of stars. Cars moved like tiny lights on quiet roads. Everything looked normal. No one knew that the world was about to change forever. At 2:14 a.m., something strange happened above Earth. Every satellite, every radar screen, every telescope showed the same thing. Something big was entering the solar system. No one could tell what it was. It was not an asteroid, not a human ship, not anything made on Earth. In a dark control room, scientists watched in silence. One whispered, "It's slowing down." Another said, "It's not falling. It's stopping." The object stopped above the moon, completely still, and then hundreds of smaller signals appeared around it. They were moving toward Earth. The sky over New York turned silver. In Tokyo, people came out of their homes and pointed upward. Over London, clouds began to glow with blue light. Everywhere, people lifted their phones to record. The videos would later be called the first light. Within minutes, the world went dark. Phones stopped working. Internet gone. Electricity vanished, like someone had pulled the plug on humanity. The silence that followed was heavy and deep, the kind that makes your heart beat louder in your ears. Then a voice came, not a human voice. It spoke from every screen, every radio, every speaker. The sound was cold, flat, and powerful. "People of Earth, you are now property of the Threx Dominion. Surrender your world. Resistance will bring extinction." The message repeated 3 times. Then it stopped. In the White House, military leaders shouted orders. In Moscow, generals stared at dead screens. In Beijing, scientists tried to reach the satellites, but they were gone. Every nation was blind. Every weapon that depended on computers was silent. The world waited. When the first alien ship entered the atmosphere, people finally saw them, massive triangles of metal, glowing from beneath, moving slower than clouds but heavy like mountains. They passed over oceans, cities, deserts. Where they moved, the air burned. The first attack came over Cairo. A blue beam fell from the sky and turned an entire army base into dust. No explosion. Just gone. The aliens expected the humans to run. They had seen it on other worlds. When the Threx invaded a planet, the people always begged for mercy. Always. But Earth was different. In the ruins of the Cairo base, a firefighter carried a child out from under the smoke. He looked up at the ship, his uniform burning, and shouted, "Not here. Not my home." Cameras from nearby buildings caught that moment. One man standing under a sky full of death. That clip spread faster than the alien message. Within hours all over the world, humans began to fight back. Not with big weapons. They didn't have power for that, but with courage. People used whatever they had. Old radios, signal flares, trucks, even farming drones. The human spirit woke up. In space, the Threx commander watched. He was tall, his skin pale and sharp like metal. His voice was calm as he spoke to his crew. "They are unevolved. They fight out of fear. It will end soon." But his second officer was not so sure. "Commander, they are adapting. Quickly, they are using tools we did not detect." The commander turned away. "Let them try. This world will burn like the others." Down on Earth, in a secret bunker somewhere under Norway, a small group of humans worked in silence. Scientists, soldiers, hackers, the last ones who still had working power. A young woman named Sarah looked at the data from old satellites. She found something strange, a weak point in the alien ship's shield pattern. She whispered, "Maybe we can fight them." No one believed it at first. But hope is a strange thing. Once it appears, it spreads fast. By morning, humans all over the world were moving. Messages passed from hand to hand, written on paper, spoken by radio. "Don't give up. Fight back. Earth still stands." In a destroyed street in Paris, a soldier looked up at the alien ship. He loaded his last rocket, knowing it might not even scratch the metal beast above him. He smiled and said, "If this is the end, let's make it loud." The rocket fired. It hit the alien hull. No explosion, just a small flash. But the alien sensors blinked for a second. 1 second of confusion, and that was enough for the humans below to move, to strike again. The aliens started to notice something they had never seen before. No surrender, no begging. Only resistance. Fierce, endless, emotional. On the command ship, the Threx leader looked again at Earth through the holographic screen. Cities burning, oceans steaming, yet humans were still fighting, still screaming, still refusing to fall. He whispered softly to himself, What kind of creatures fight like this? Outside, lightning cracked across the clouds as alien ships hovered above a planet that refused to die. The invasion had begun, but the war for Earth was only starting, and the Threks were about to learn that humans were not weak. They were something else, something no alien empire had ever faced before. They were human. The first night after the invasion felt endless. Cities burned, skies glowed red, and the air smelled of metal and fear. But Earth was not quiet anymore. Everywhere, people were fighting back. The Threks believed it would be easy. Their empire had crushed 100 worlds. They always won. They always watched civilizations kneel, but they had never met a species like humans. Emotional, stubborn, unpredictable. In a bunker beneath London, a small group of scientists and soldiers gathered around flickering screens. Sarah, the young woman who found the weak point in the alien shields, spoke quickly. Her hands shook, but her voice was strong. Their shields react to sound. If we find the right frequency, we can overload them. Colonel Davis leaned closer. You mean music? Sarah nodded. Yes, a very loud kind. The colonel stared for a moment, then smiled for the first time since the invasion began. Then let's make them dance. Across the world, humanity began to move. Old radio towers, stadium speakers, even car alarms, anything that could make noise, was turned into a weapon. People tuned to the same signal, a deep pulse created by scientists across several countries. When the signal played, strange things happened. Alien shields flickered. Their hovering ships trembled. For the first time, the invaders felt confusion. The aliens tried to adapt, but humans were faster. Hackers from India and Brazil found a way to break into the Threks' communication systems. Teenagers worked from basements, sending false orders to alien drones. A group of engineers in Japan modified old satellites to reflect the sound waves back into orbit. Piece by piece, humanity turned chaos into strategy. In New York, soldiers used the signal to bring down the first alien scout ship. The crowd cheered as the massive metal triangle fell into the Hudson River. People ran toward the crash, shouting and crying, not in fear, but in joy. The Threks commander, watching from orbit, did not understand. They celebrate death? He asked. His advisor replied, No, Commander. They celebrate hope. By the third day, the war changed. The Threks were still powerful, but now they were losing time. Humans were learning faster than their systems could calculate. The invaders had advanced weapons, but humans had creativity, and something even more dangerous, emotion. In a ruined city in South America, a group of children painted signs on the walls. Fight for Earth. Stay loud. Don't give up. Aliens passed above, but the words stayed. Those small messages became symbols, spreading across surviving networks and radios. The world was slowly finding its voice again. Deep in the Threks command ship, the leader grew restless. He slammed his clawed hand against the control table. This planet refuses to break. They fight even when defeated. His second officer looked at the data. They are forming something new, Commander. A global defense. No leaders, no empire? Just one purpose. The commander's eyes narrowed. Then destroy them faster. Target their communication centers. Beams of blue light rained down again, destroying towers and bases. But it was too late. The human network was no longer in one place. It was everywhere. Small groups, hidden bunkers, secret tunnels, all connected by word, by hand, by heart. In a desert in Australia, a pilot named Mason prepared for a suicide mission. His plane was old, half damaged, but it still flew. He looked at the photo of his daughter taped to the cockpit. He whispered, "For you, kid." Then he launched straight toward an alien ship. The Threk sensors couldn't lock onto him because of the noise frequency playing from his radio. He hit the alien hull directly. The explosion tore through the ship's center, sending fire into the sky. People watched from miles away. They didn't know Mason's name, but they saw his act, and they remembered it. That night, across the planet, hundreds of pilots took to the skies, ready to do the same. Fear had turned into fury. Meanwhile, Sarah's team made a discovery. By combining the signal pattern with human brainwaves, they could create a pulse strong enough to disable alien drones completely. They called it Echo. The only problem, and it needed a direct connection to the alien network. Someone had to get close. Colonel Davis looked at the map. If we can reach their command relay in orbit, we can send the Echo. Sarah nodded, knowing what it meant. It was almost impossible, but humans had done impossible things before. The next morning, across every surviving city, people saw something incredible. A message appeared on every working screen, broadcasted by the underground human network. It was simple, only 3 words. "Earth fights back," people shouted. Soldiers smiled. Even those who had lost everything felt something return inside them. Pride. The Threx had wanted fear, but they had created the opposite. In space, the alien commander watched as one of his ships fell, then another and another. He turned to his officers, silent for a long time, then said, "These humans, they learn too fast." On Earth, Sarah looked at the dark sky through the bunker window. She could see faint lights, explosions in orbit. She whispered, "We're coming for you." The world was no longer broken. It was alive, loud, and burning with fury. The aliens had started a war they could not understand. They had come for a planet divided, but what they found was one united voice, billions of hearts beating as one. And for the first time in history, humanity stood together. Not as countries, not as races, but as Earth. The Threx invasion was far from over. But now they knew. This planet would not fall easily. The war for Earth had entered its darkest days. Cities were half destroyed. Skies burned red every night. The air carried the smell of smoke, metal, and something worse: loss. Millions were gone, but the fight had not stopped. It had only changed. The humans had learned. Every battle, every mistake, every death became a lesson. The aliens could destroy buildings, but they could not destroy the human will. And that, the Threx were beginning to understand, was their biggest problem. Inside the alien command ship, the Threx commander stood before a glowing map of Earth. Half the planet was covered in fire. He turned to his officers. They should have fallen by now. Their numbers are collapsing, but his advisor shook his head. "Commander, they keep fighting, even without power, even without leaders. We destroy one base and 10 more appear." The commander's voice grew cold. "Then we will show them what fear truly means." He gave the order. Moments later, massive alien ships opened fire on every major city still standing. Beams of blue energy rained down like lightning. New York, Moscow, Delhi, Paris, all under attack. The night became brighter than day. Sarah watched from the bunker in Norway as reports came in. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed calm. "We need to send the echo signal now." Colonel Davis shook his head. "If we send it now before it's ready, it might fail." Sarah looked straight at him. "If we wait, there won't be anyone left to save." There was silence. Then the colonel nodded. "Do it." Sarah and her team worked without rest, hands shaking, hearts racing. They had only one chance. If the echo worked, it could disable the alien drones across half the planet. If it failed, Earth would be finished. Meanwhile, on the front lines, human resistance fighters were everywhere. In the ruins of Tokyo, soldiers fought in the shadows. In Africa, farmers turned their tractors into weapons. In Canada, miners used tunnels to move unseen, striking alien patrols by surprise. Every person became a soldier. Every soldier became a symbol, and still the aliens did not understand. The Threx thought victory was about strength, but humans fought with something else, something invisible. They fought for love, for memory, for home. In one small town in Germany, a young boy named Lucas stood beside his mother, watching the sky burn. He asked softly, "Mom, are we going to die?" His mother hugged him tightly. "Maybe, but we don't stop fighting." Not us. An alien drone flew overhead. Suddenly an old tank, one from a museum, fired from the street. The drone exploded, crashing into a field. The boy smiled through his tears. That moment was seen on a survivor's camera. The clip spread secretly through the human network, a symbol that even the smallest act could fight the biggest threat. Back in space, the Threx commander received the new data. Their losses were increasing. Drones destroyed, ships damaged, communication jammed. He slammed his metallic hand against the console. "Impossible. Their technology is ancient." His second officer answered quietly, "Yes, Commander. But their spirit is not." The commander glared. "They are animals. They fight like mad things. There is no logic." "Exactly," said the officer. "That is why we cannot predict them." For the first time, silence filled the alien bridge. The commander turned back to the planet. Below him, humans fought in every shadow. He whispered, Maybe we underestimated them. Sarah's team finished the ecosystem. They connected it to a hacked alien transmitter. But there was one last problem. The signal had to be sent manually from space. Someone had to go up there. Colonel Davis looked around the room. Everyone was exhausted, covered in dirt and fear. He took a deep breath. "I'll go." Sarah stepped forward. "No, you've led us long enough. This is my project. I'll finish it." They argued for minutes, but time was running out. Finally, the colonel smiled sadly. "You're the best of us, Sarah. Make it count." She nodded, her face pale but determined. Hours later, an old human rocket, built decades ago, launched into the night sky. It was rusty, loud, and weak compared to alien ships. But it flew. Inside, Sarah held onto the controls, watching Earth shrink below. The radio crackled with Davis's voice. "You're making history, kid," Sarah smiled. "No, Colonel. We're making a future." When she reached orbit, alien drones spotted her. They opened fire, beams of light cutting through space. Sarah pushed the ship faster, straight toward the Threx command relay. Alarms screamed, flames burst from the engines. She ignored them all. With one last breath, she whispered, "For Earth." She pressed the button. The echo signal released. A wave of energy spread across the planet. Alien drones froze mid-air. Ships in orbit shook and flickered. The Threx systems went dark. For a moment, the entire invasion stopped. On Earth, people looked up and saw alien ships falling. Silent and powerless, cheers filled the broken streets. Children screamed in joy. Soldiers dropped to their knees, crying. For the first time, humans had turned the tide. But Sarah's ship was gone. The explosion was seen even from the ground. She had given her life to give Earth another chance. In the bunker, Colonel Davis watched the screen fade to static. He stood quietly, then whispered, "You did it, kid." Far above, on the alien ship, the commander stared in disbelief. His empire had never lost before. Now they were the ones afraid. He turned to his officers. "Retreat, regroup, we will return." But even as he said it, deep down he knew the truth. They had not just lost a battle. They had met something their empire could not understand, a species that refused to surrender, even at the edge of extinction. And in that moment, the Threx finally felt something new. Fear. The world had changed. For the first time since the invasion began, the sky was quiet. Alien ships hung still, drifting like broken stars. The echo signal had worked. Sarah's sacrifice had given Earth a chance, but humans knew it wouldn't last. The Threx were powerful. They would return, stronger and angrier than before. And this time, Earth was not going to wait. This time, humans would strike first. Colonel Davis stood on the balcony of the bunker, watching the sunrise. The air smelled of smoke and rain, but also of something rare, a hope. He touched the small radio on his belt. "This is Davis to all surviving units. The echo gave us time. Now we fight for our future." All over the planet his voice was heard, on old radios, speakers, even through makeshift signals written on buildings. People listened, and for the first time, every surviving human shared one thought: fight back. In secret workshops and underground bases, engineers and soldiers worked together. They studied pieces of fallen alien ships, learning faster than ever before. A team in Japan built engines from alien metal. A group in the US turned old rockets into space weapons. Even children helped, carrying parts, fixing machines, passing food to tired workers. The world had become one giant workshop of war. Within weeks, humanity had done what no other species in the galaxy had ever managed. They built ships capable of fighting the Threx in space. They called them the Dawn Fleet. The first ships rose from launch pads around the world. Not perfect, not polished, but full of heart. Each one carried human pilots, volunteers who knew they might never come back. On every hull they painted Sarah's name. She had become a legend, a symbol of what one person could do. From orbit, the Threx commander watched with disbelief. His systems were still damaged, his drones half dead from the echo's effects. "They are launching into space," he said. "They cannot win. They don't even understand our technology." But his officer hesitated. "Commander, maybe understanding is not what makes them dangerous," the commander glared. "What then?" "Belief," the officer said softly. "They believe they can win." The commander turned to the window. Below him, small human ships rose like sparks from a fire, hundreds of them. The sight made something tighten in his chest. He didn't want to admit it, but he felt it again. Fear. As the human fleet reached orbit, Earth glowed below, broken but still beautiful. Colonel Davis led the first squadron, his old uniform patched and torn. He looked at the stars ahead. "All units, this is for Earth. Let's bring Sarah home." The human ships moved forward. The Threx fleet opened fire. Blue beams sliced through the darkness. Explosions lit up the sky. But humans didn't fall back. They dodged, adapted, improvised, turning debris into shields, using alien wrecks as cover. Their movements were wild, unpredictable, alive. The Threx couldn't understand how humans fought. There was no pattern, no logic. Every time they thought they had won, humans surprised them again. In one fierce battle above the Pacific, a single human ship, the Spirit of Cairo, broke through the alien line. Its pilot, a woman named Amina, saw the alien command ship ahead. Her engines were failing, alarms screaming, but she kept flying. "For Sarah," she whispered, and dove straight into the ship's heart. The explosion was so bright it turned night into day. The alien command ship broke apart, drifting into pieces that burned across the sky. People on Earth looked up and saw it, a falling stars, and they cheered. Back on the human flagship, Davis shouted orders through the smoke. "Push them back. Every ship counts." A young pilot's voice came through the radio. "Sir, we're running out of power." "Then run on courage," Davis replied, and they did. One by one, humans pushed forward, their ships battered and burning but never stopping. Every death made the others fight harder. Every loss turned into fury. Even the Threx started to falter. Their systems jammed, their morale dropped. The humans were everywhere, like fire spreading faster than control. The Threx commander looked at the chaos. "Retreat to high orbit, regroup." But his ships didn't move. His officers were silent. Finally one spoke, voice trembling. "Sir, the humans are already there." A wave of human ships came out of the shadow side of the Earth, their engines glowing red. They had used the planet itself to hide. It was a perfect trap. "Fire!" Davis shouted. Hundreds of missiles, lasers, and energy bursts hit the Threx fleet at once. The soundless war in space became a storm of light. When it ended, only silence remained. Earth had won its first space battle. The survivors cheered, cried, and hugged inside their ships. Below, people looked up from the ruins and saw no more alien lights in the sky, only stars. The same stars that had once brought fear now brought hope. Colonel Davis looked out of his cracked window at the blue planet below. "Sarah," he whispered, "we did it." But deep inside, he knew the war wasn't truly over. The Threx Empire was vast, and Earth was only one world. They would come again. But next time, humanity would be ready. They had ships now. They had unity. And most of all, they had belief. Far away in the darkness between stars, the Threx commander's escape ship floated silently. He watched the burning wrecks of his fleet fade behind him. His claws trembled as he sent a final message to his empire. "Do not return to Earth. These humans, they fight for something we cannot understand. They fight for meaning." He turned off the signal and closed his eyes. "We thought they were weak," he whispered. "We were wrong. Earth had survived the impossible." And for the first time in human history, the people of Earth looked toward the stars, not with fear but with fire in their hearts. The age of humanity had begun. The sky over Earth was calm again. No alien ships, no beams of light. For the first time in weeks, the people could breathe. The cities were broken, rivers ran black with debris, and forests were scorched. But the planet still stood. Humans had survived. Not because of weapons alone, not because of strategy, but because of courage, unity, and heart. In the ruins of New York, survivors walked the streets together. Strangers helped each other carry supplies, water, and the injured. Children ran and laughed again, though some still held scars too deep for words. Humans were tired. They had lost friends, families, and homes. Yet they had gained something more, the knowledge that they could face anything. Colonel Davis stood on the steps of the rebuilt command center. He watched the horizon as the sun rose, burning the sky in orange and gold. He thought of Sarah, of Mason, of Amina, those who had given everything to save the planet. He whispered to himself, "We did it. We really did it." Around him, survivors raised flags, not of countries, but of Earth. One banner read simply, "Earth stands." The planet had survived the impossible. It had survived because humans refused to fall quietly. Far above, in the cold darkness of space, the last Threx ship fled. The commander watched Earth shrink beneath him. His empire had been humbled. Every battle they had fought before seemed small compared to this. He sent one final message to his people, a warning for all the stars. Earth cannot be conquered. They do not fight for orders. They fight for meaning, and they fight together. Remember this name, Earth. The word spread through the Threx empire, and whispers of fear began to grow. The humans had survived what no other species could. Now the universe knew that Earth was not weak. Now every corner of the galaxy would pause at the name of humans. Back on Earth, humans began to rebuild. Cities rose from rubble, farms grew again, and schools reopened under tents. But something had changed. Borders seemed smaller. Arguments seemed smaller. The planet felt united in a way no war ever could have forced. People remembered what it meant to fight for something larger than themselves, for Earth, for life, for each other. Scientists gathered the alien technology left behind. They studied it carefully. Not to destroy, not to conquer, but to protect. Humans had learned that knowledge was power, but courage was stronger. In a small village in Africa, a child looked up at the sky. "Mama, there are more aliens out there." Her mother smiled, holding her close. "Maybe, but if they come, we'll be ready." Earth fights back. That child would grow up knowing the stories of courage, of sacrifice, of ordinary humans becoming legends. She would grow up believing that no matter how impossible the odds, humanity could rise. Colonel Davis looked at the rebuilt fleet docked along the coasts. Ships gleamed in the sunlight, ready for the future. For the first time, humans were not just defending their planet. They were ready to explore beyond it. The stars no longer frightened them. They were calling, and Earth was ready to answer. As night fell, lights from rebuilt cities reflected across oceans. People lit fires not in fear but in celebration. Stories were shared of heroes, Sarah, Mason, Amina, Lucas, and countless others. They became names whispered in hope, remembered forever. The human spirit had survived fire, invasion, and death. It had survived because it refused to bow, refused to surrender. And somewhere, deep in the void of space, the universe listened. The Threx Empire remembered. Other civilizations would hear. The lesson was clear. Humans do not fight like other creatures. Humans fight for each other, for their homes, for their planet. Humans fight for meaning. And humans never fall quietly. The planet turned slowly beneath the stars. It was scarred. It was battered. But it was alive. And the humans on it knew something no alien ever could. The universe had thought Earth would fall easily. They were so wrong. Humanity had won. Not just a battle, not just a war. Humanity had proven that even the smallest, weakest creatures could rise and change the course of history. And from that day on, the name Earth meant something in every corner of the galaxy.